1st, 2024. We start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand and join with me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Couple of housekeeping items. One for safety. The exits, we have one in the back. We have one to my immediate right. We also would not like you to take the elevator. If you need any help getting downstairs, somebody will assist you. In addition to that there, we appreciate it if we included that shut off your vibrate your cell phones or electronic devices. And I'll introduce the members. I'm starting with the director, Mr. George Cioris.
Good evening.
And then we have Town Administrator Representative, Mr. Randy Chase.
Good evening.
We have new member, Mr. Fishman.
Good evening.
We have member, Mr. Healy. Good evening. Mr. Fishman is also replacing Mark Connors that has resigned and left the area. And before I go any further, I also want to recognize that Lisa Carvello, who is not here today, she's ill, but she is on Zoom, so she is recording. So when you are talking, if you're going to talk into the mic, make sure you're close so that she can pick up the information. And then I left off at Healy, so Mr. Grenice. Good evening. The Town Council Representative. Way over there, the man behind the curtain, Mr. Owen Provencher.
Good evening.
We have Mr. Town Engineer, Mr. LaRue.
Good evening.
We have member, Mr. Malaby.
Good evening.
We have member, Mr. Freinhauer.
Good evening.
We have Secretary, Mr. Andy Myers. We have Vice Chair, Mr. Dave.
Good evening.
And I'm John O'Connor, Chair. Going on now to the approval of minutes before we have a motion to accept them. I have a very small technical change. It's got, under the absent line, it has Randy Chase, so that was an error. Randy was here at the last meeting, so if we move him, Lisa, up into the members present category, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended by yourself.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Dave. Since we're on Zoom, so Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Fishman,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice,
Yes.
Mr. Malaby,
Yes.
Mr. Freinhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
And Chair votes yes, so our planning meetings were accepted. There is no correspondence, so you got off light again as usual. We are going to have a presentation by the town administrator, and you want to introduce him and then give a slight update?
Yeah, I'll make it real brief. Annually, the planning board, for the new members, they have to look at the 6-year capital improvement plan that's presented by the town administrator with staff input. So the process is the planning board will give any input or comments tonight, then it will go to the council in the public hearing during the budget process. So you have it electronically as well as the hard copy. So I'll turn over to Dave Karen, Town Administrator, and Mark Fleischer, the CFO.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Dave Karen, the Town Administrator, along with our Chief Financial Officer, Mark Fleischer, who is responsible for a lot of the heavy lifting developing this program. First, I have to apologize. I think you just received the program tonight.
The program, yes, we received the PowerPoint
That was our
presentation.
oversight. So if I can suggest we go through the PowerPoint, and then if you have any questions after the meeting, next couple of weeks, either let us know, or go through George, let us know. And if you want us to come back in the next meeting to answer any questions, just let us know. We'd be glad to do that for you.
Okay, we can do that.
All right. So as George said, this is our capital improvements plan. And if the legal basis is you're required to, if you have a master plan, you're required to have a CIP in the town. And typically, it's the planning board which coordinates the development of the plan. But our town charter delegates that responsibility to my office to present the plan. And the plan really has no legal basis. It is a financial planning tool which you use to look forward at least 6 years to see where the large capital expenses may occur, both for equipment and providing infrastructure improvements for the community. All departments submit them to Mark. Mark goes through the plan, has meetings with all the departments. We review a draft plan, then per the charter, it is presented to the planning board for any input from the planning board, and then we'll submit it to the town council at the meeting on April 2nd. And by charter, the council has to approve the plan with or without modifications by June 1st of the fiscal year. The funding structure is somewhat the same, although we are in a little better shape on one hand and we have more challenges on the other, is that all of our water and wastewater funds are self-funded in that they're paid either through federal and state grants. We've used some ARPA funding in the past, and the balance of the expenses are paid from the water and wastewater rates. Cable is the same way, is that we do receive an annual grant from Comcast, who is our cable provider, and the balance of the projects are funded through the franchise fees which we receive from the cable customers. And most of our general fund capital projects are funded through our capital reserve programs, and they were, up to several years ago, totally replenished through any surplus funds we had at the end of the year, which is not the optimum way to fund those projects. And we've been building up, we look at about $1.5 million for our capital reserve funds every year to keep the plan solvent. And we had zero from the tax base. We've built it up to $300,000, and last year the council had another $350,000. So of the $1.5 million, $650,000 is funded from the property tax base, and $850,000 is from surplus if it's available. Again, looking at the fund for $1.5 million annually, that is a target we've had in place for the last 7 years. This plan will be urging the council to increase that funding by $75,000 this year, and then increase it by 2.5% annually thereafter. Essentially because of inflation, it's really hit our buying power with respect for equipment, services, and apparatus. And as I just stated, the FY24 budget includes a $650,000 appropriation to the reserve fund to bring up to a total of $1.5 million. And that's the capital reserve funds. There's other major expenses which are funded also in the budget, but separately, our $1.5 million road program, and also is that we pay the debt service or lease payments on our police cruisers through the operating budget. So, you know, what we found is several years ago, economic conditions and policy decisions really restricted the amount of equipment we're able to secure. We've updated in the last 7 years, so we're pretty much caught up, and then inflation arrived. So even though we're purchasing equipment on a slower pace, the costs are pretty much the same due to inflationary pressures. We try to provide you a synopsis of where the investments are recommended to be made, and there's two significant changes from last year's plan. First is that the fire, as I call it, the fire tower has gone down considerably since we have funded and is under construction is Central Fire Station. That was about a $20 million project. And the larger one, which has increased significantly, is the water. It's up to $40 million. The main driver is a $33 million project on Phase 2 of the Southern New Hampshire Regional Water Project. Some of you may be familiar with that. There's a lot of PFAS issues and also MBT issues over in the southern tier. And so they wanted to purchase water from Manchester Water Works, and Derry's in the way, geographically. So we've received a lot of grants with no expenses to the Derry taxpayer or the Derry ratepayers to extend water lines throughout the community, primarily in 28 South, to deliver water from Manchester to Salem. And then it goes on to Plastow and Wyndham and Atkinson and Hampstead. And that was the design originally to deliver 1 million gallons per day. Phase 2 is projected to increase that delivery of water to 3.1 million gallons a day, which will require a lot of other infrastructure improvements here in Derry as far as additional pumps, water tanks, and pipe size. And again, that'll all be paid by resources outside of the community, and there'll be no impact on our dairy ratepayers or our dairy taxpayers. We're typically asked with the planning board what our debt looks like. State law says you can raise at least up to 3% of your town valuation as equalized by the state. And there's a difference between how much you can borrow and how much you have the ability to pay back on a tax cap. Our current town assessment locally is about $4.8 billion. Equalized by the state brings up to $5.2 billion, which translates into the town could issue $155 million in debt under state law. Our current debt fund is $26 million, so we're only using about 17% of our debt capacity. And that is broken down as follows. As I just mentioned previously, the most recent project is Central Fire Station and some culvert replacements, and that's about $17 million outstanding. So you can see is that the general fund projects are about $22 million or $26 million outstanding. There is some for water systems and some for wastewater. We also have an outstanding TIF bond for the project up on Manchester Road, and that's got a balance of $1.68 million remaining. There's a similar process with statutory debt limit for water, except instead of 3%, you can raise up to 10%. And you can see as the current debt level is about $1.23 million. However, the council approved a number of different projects a year and a half ago. So we'll have additional debt of about $4.8 million to be added to that. The council went ahead with that project, recognizing there were some ARPA funds. And actually, we issued those through the state revolving loan fund, in which those rates are somewhat lower than the market rates. And moving on to wastewater debt, there actually is no limit on the amount you can bond as long as it's included and waived by the governing council. And our current wastewater debt is just about $1.2 million. And the other debt we have is the Dairy Commerce Corridor that was associated with the Walmart project a number of years ago on Manchester Road. And that debt is down to $1.68 million, which is 2.55% of the assessment base. That's not a statutory limit, just a point of information. And Mark actually had that debt refinanced 3 years ago at 1.6% for 10 years. So we're in good shape with that particular debt. And here are the major projects we're looking at for FY25. Not any large equipment purchases with the fire department, but looking at a gator, some battery-powered rescue tools, which you hope to receive through an Assistance for Firefighter grant, which is a federal program. We actually upgraded our breathing apparatus through that program, and also our patient lift assist, whereby when you put the stretcher in the back of the ambulance, there'll be a mechanism that actually will lift the stretcher into the ambulance. Hopefully will stabilize our workers' compensation costs. And also looking to replace our cardiac monitors and our respiratory ventilators. DPW, we're looking to replace a number of vehicles. These are the current old vehicles. The tractor looks brand new, but actually that tractor is over 10 years old. And most of our rolling stock we use for at least 10 years. Our fire apparatus, our engines go for about 12, and our ladder trucks go for about 15, 18 years. We're also, you may recall, for those who've been on the board for a while, going through this presentation in previous years, we had a 4-year program at $25,000 per year to upgrade the traffic signals in town. That project has been completed, and now we're looking to replace that with a program at $50,000 per year to start addressing all the sidewalks in the community. So we expect to be attacking East Derry Road sidewalk this year. We're also looking at road repairs at a cemetery. We usually invest about $25,000 in that program every other year. And this is a trailer storage facility. We haul our solid waste to Coventry and Haverhill, and we had, you can see this is the current facility, which was subject to the weather, so we're looking to replace that as well. We had a failure on it this past year. And then Owen has a number of improvements, both like in this office, but also down in the media lab. Also funds support our FM radio station, remote production, and edit systems. Looking at water and wastewater, which again is funded through, not through the tax base, looking to replace the excavator on the left. We we budget about $600,000 a year for water main upgrades, and that large project we just spoke of, Phase 2, at about $33 million. We're looking to replace some sewer force main for $650,000, and we're gonna have a large expense coming up regarding the lagoon system. The lagoons 1 and 2 need to be relined, and Lagoon 3 has been out of service for a number of years. However, given the current anticipated demand, we'll be restoring that Lagoon 3. And again, there'll be various equipment replacements for water and wastewater. Looking at the financial summary, we try to keep the impact somewhat level. So this is our initial review. That net tax impact can change, but you can see it hovers between $1.20 and $1.30 of your overall tax rate of $5.94. And by keeping this program level, not only is it predictable, it doesn't adversely impact the tax cap as we're required to stay under per the voters approved that a number of years ago. It also makes sure that our expenses for capital are predictable over a multi-year period. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. And again, I apologize for not getting the actual plan to you previously, but please review any questions, and we can respond either in writing or come back to you at your next meeting.
Okay, on that, before I open it up to the board, just want to remind the board that if you do have questions, to email them only to George. Do not email to reply all, because that would be considered a violation of 91A. So again, if you need to send us a question, then George can then re-forward it out and deal with it at that point. So I believe you had your hand up, Mr. Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Karen, and thank you for the offer to accept email questions and comments going forward. I did have a moment to study the package. I noticed that similar to last year's presentation, the total for all capital projects footer line is, I don't know, front-loaded a little bit. And you explained last year that we were doing some catch-up. It seems that we're still sort of in that mode, and I wonder if you could give us additional commentary on that.
Yeah, well, we actually have extended the life of our rolling stock. And when you look at the bottom line, it could be, and I have to go back and look at the specific lines you're talking about, but at times like the water project, the lagoon project is a $10 million project, so that'll inflate the bottom line. But as far as equipment goes, we are flatlining that at this point, and we're finding we're getting a little bit more life out of those rolling apparatus.
And while the actual plan is 6 years, I recall many years ago there used to be sort of a 30-year lookout plan. Is that still done even on an informal basis, or has that been discontinued?
Well, if you look at the capital reserve schedules within the plan, you'll see we bring those out between 6 and 12 years. So one thing we don't want to make sure we avoid is that year 7 financially we fall off the cliff. So we're always extending further out. We do look way out, and we use a master plan as the guide for that. And now that we've addressed the central fire station project, and of course this building's in great shape, most of our public works facilities are in really good shape. So we foresee large expenses being in water and wastewater. We're going to have to look at the police department at some point down the line, and we'll have to make some improvements to the other 3 fire stations. So part of the plan, which you'll notice, is that we have money in here for a review study of the conditions of the other 3 fire stations. We can find out what we need, what the deficiencies are, and then once we arrive at a cost, we can try to plug those in to make sure that the tax impact is level across the board.
Great. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? If not, I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
Percentage of the interest rates, are those capped, or is that variable that you have on the bonds?
No, those are all capped. Correct? Yeah, they're fixed.
Pretty much. I mean,
Yep.
as the bonds go on, sometimes the interest rate goes up a little bit towards the end, but the principal payment goes up as well.
But when we issue the bonds, we know what the interest rate's going to be. And the way the finance market works is that we issued $20 million in bonds for the fire station and the culvert. And we only have to pay back $17,800,000, I believe it was, because we receive a premium. And I'm not quite sure how the financial market works, but when you look at the financial statements, it'll say that we're paying between 4 and 5% for interest rate. The actual interest rate for the 25-year bond was 3.66. They give you a front-loaded premium. So, and we now do issue our bonds to the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. We used to issue them ourselves, but alone we're a AA3, so we're one notch below a AAA rating, as is the bond bank. So it didn't make sense for us to incur the local cost of bond counsel and our bond advisor. We just go with the bond bank. The offset is, if you go with the bond bank, they won't refinance a bond until it's 10 years, at a maturity of 10 years. So you know your rate for the first 10 years, but they have refinanced in the past. And as an example, the ones that we bonded ourselves, we refinanced all those in the last several years. As an example is the DCC bond, which Mark refinanced to 1.6% for 10 years.
I know watching the Federal Reserve the other day that she wasn't willing to change anything at this time. They're going to wait for the next quarter as part of reducing the interest rates.
Right.
Another question, on the water fund that you talked about, the chemicals going from Manchester and going all the way down, is that separate funding, or does that go into capital reserve?
Well, what happens is that we actually get a grant, is that essentially the state considers it to be a town project. So we go through a process with the engineers, and then they develop, they bid it, we bid it actually, and then we get a grant to reimburse us for that. Now, the planning board should know is that we receive what they call a wheeling charge. And so we get $1 for every 100 cubic feet, which is wheeled from Manchester to Salem. And through legislation spearheaded by Senator Birdsell several years ago, previous to that, all that money to go in the water fund. Well, now you need to put at least 50% in the water fund, and the rest can be used for essentially capital purposes. If the purpose is the same you can do in TIF districts, you can develop property, you can improve your downtown, you can extend your utilities. And I think we're receiving, is it a couple $100,000 this year?
Yeah, 250, around 250,000.
Yeah, and that's at 1 million gallons. So when you see it jumps to 3.1 million gallons in phase 2, that's going to be a significant revenue raiser for the community.
Wow. Okay, the next question is, and again, not seeing the full packet, let me know if I've already repeated it. I saw nothing in the PowerPoint presentation as far as you had 4A, but you didn't have the gateway TIF. Is there any allocations for future funding for your gateway?
We currently don't have any debt service with the Gateway TIF, nor do we have any plans that are concrete enough to be in the CIP. The Gateway TIF was essentially an extension of the old Ash Street TIF district. And right now, we foresee 3 major purposes. One is that we're going to have to upgrade the staff and a truck with this year's budget, because all of a sudden, we're not doing 2 lanes anymore. You'll be maintaining at least 6 lanes through that corridor. The second is intermodal transportation, so we have funds there also to finish the rail trail once from north of the corridor to the Londonderry line. We think that's going to be in line for a CMAQ grant through the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, so our cost will be 20% as opposed to 100%, but we're planning on 100% in case we don't get that grant. The third issue is that under state law, as you notice, the state has already purchased a lot of land on the north side of Folsom Road. And so once the project is done, all state agencies have first dibs on claiming that land. If not, then the town has offered that land. So we're recommending to the council, the town buy that land and then look at combining some of the lots and then working with a public-private partnership to redevelop the north side of Folsom. So we've planned on resources for those 3 major projects within the Gateway District.
Okay, a couple other questions. IT security, with everything going on out there in the IA world, is there any special funding that's going into upgrading our systems, or are we pretty much in?
We're in really good shape now, but that's something Doug looks at every year. And you can see also when you look through the program is that there's a separate capital reserve fund for AT equipment, and part of that is security. But we're pretty comfortable where we are right now.
Okay. The other one, as you know, I sit on the net zero. Is there anything in here as far as putting in for electric vehicles?
That's part of the plan for the capital reserve. We had looked at getting an EV. We have to replace one of the police captain's vehicles. Well, 2 things. we're replacing the police captain's vehicle this year.
Our code
And-
enforcement, yeah.
And we looked at an EV, and the numbers didn't work for us regarding the capital investment and the savings. The money wasn't there. We don't look at EVs for our cruises. We run what they call HUD cars. So if you get off duty on the first shift, you get on the second shift, you give them the keys and off you go. We
Great.
did look at hybrids for this year. We couldn't do it because Ford could not guarantee delivery. And we need the vehicles, so we're gonna proceed with gas-powered cruises this time, and in 3 years, when we look at another round, we'll see if hybrids are available. But hybrids may make sense for us in that application.
So for some of this new equipment you want to purchase, are you doing it basically on the draw, such as that whatever's available out there, because the supply chain is weak?
Well, if you notice, all of our public works
Oh, s-
vehicles used to be white. I mean, green, now some are white, some are green, is that we've been forced to go on the lots, because if you try to order a vehicle, the manufacturers won't guarantee delivery. Hopefully, that'll get better. But inspection vehicles, we're looking at EVs. It's a good test case for us, and I think we have one scheduled for this year.
Okay, very good. That's all the questions I have. Again, we'll have the packet to look at, and again, anybody has questions, please forward them to George. PowerPoint was very nice,
Okay, great.
so you did a nice job on that, and looking
Thanks for your
forward
time.
to it.
Appreciate it.
Great job.
Thank you.
Great job,
Yes,
thank you.
Thank
take
you.
care.
So with that, we have the planning director and chairman updates. George, I don't have anything.
I don't either, other than a reminder that if anyone's interested, I think for the terms, if you want to be on the planning board, we have one full vacancy, which expires March 31st, Mark Harner's. I think John O'Connor's term is up on the 31st of March. So you can go online, the form is on the town webpage, or you can contact Sheila Bodenrader, and Sheila can get you, or if you want to be bumped up from an alternate to a full member, put your name in for that as well. The council will make those appointments, I think, the last meeting in March. So April 1st, your terms will start over again. That's all I have.
Okay, very good. We're going to be going into a public hearing. This is kind of a repeat that we put on pause at the last planning board meeting, because there was some issues regarding property lines. So the public hearing is going to be on Corner Post Restorations, LLC, PID 29011, 24 Jefferson Street, subdivision Plan 3 lots. Again, this is a continuation with some resolution on this, and I'll go into that a little bit later on.
Yep, just for the record, for the record, for the staff report again. The applicant's Cornerstone Restorations, again, the address is 24 Jefferson Street. The purpose of the plan is for a 3-lot subdivision located in the medium-high-density residential 2 district. There's an existing house on the parcel, and the subdivision is proposing two new additional house lots. All town departments have reviewed and signed the plan. There are no waiver requests. They have obtained their state subdivision approval from New Hampshire DES. We have a copy in the file. Staff would recommend approval of the plan. And just a quick update, we reached out to the Londonderry Planning Department, and you have an email attached to myself from Kelly Karen, the Assistant Town Manager, Director of Economic Development. You also have the Planning Board minutes of Londonderry from October 4th, 2023. For the record, the minutes of the meeting accurately reflected Londonderry Planning Board's position regarding the Jefferson Street subdivision. The town has no objection. So that will address the regional impact, which there would be none. And you also have a copy of the Londonderry Town minutes, Planning Board minutes on page 2, line number 68, that they discuss it. So based on that, I'll turn it back over to Rob Deegan, who's a surveyor. And then you can go through the staff report on the motions, and then open the public hearing. So I'll turn over to Rob.
Hello again.
Okay, welcome.
My name is Rob Deegan with S&H Land Services. Just wanted to interject on George's summary there. I believe we did have a waiver request for overhead utilities. Is that?
That one in
Oh,
writing?
there was none
Mark?
requested.
It is. All right, was it in writing,
did-
but it's on the plan?
We did
Okay.
mention
Did
it
it in writing?
before? It seems, I remember that.
That's fine. Yeah, we usually get that in writing, like an actual letter, but if the note's on the plan, so that's okay.
Okay. Would you like me to summarize the application again, or? And we went over it last time, but should I repeat it for the record?
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
Do you want me to present the plan again for the record?
There may be some people in the audience here that's not familiar with it, so.
Of course.
If you want to do a brief overview before we take it,
Absolutely.
it's up to jurisdiction yet.
Well,
Okay.
Well,
You
it's still
want to?
we
We
did,
did.
Before
yes.
the- before we
stopped at the,
continuation.
Regional impact.
yeah, so we need to, then, next thing is public hearing, right?
So, let him do his presentation, then I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay. So we have a motion to open the public
Well,
hearing?
no, let him do his presentation first,
Oh,
please.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman.
So the property at, what is it, 24 Jefferson here? As George said, there's one that existing house on the property. It has land in both Derry and Londonderry, and we're proposing 2 new house lots. Both will meet all the requirements of a lot in Derry. So the land that's in Londonderry, which is highlighted here in green, or the left-hand part of what's in green, will just be appended to the last lot in Derry and just kind of be with it. It's not a separate lot. But the green lot meets the requirements of a lot in Derry. And not a lot else to say. It's public water, private septics. Yeah, that's all I really got.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
we have a motion to open the public hearing by Mr. Grenice, and Mr. Nelson second that. Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Fishman,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice,
Yes.
Mr. Malaby,
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
The chair says yes. The public hearing is now open. Anybody wishing to speak on this particular case, then please come forward, state your name and address, and we'll go from there.
All right, Mr. Chairman, seeing no one running to the forefront, no one online, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Grenice to close the public hearing, and second by Mr. Nelson, starting with Mr. Chase. George, I got Mr. Chase? You sorry?
Yes.
Good, good. Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The public hearing is now closed. Brings it back to the board. Anybody having any questions?
Well, see it,
Could you just for the record, because Dan asked me to, going back to the regional impact, you did take a vote on that last time. We put it on hold until we got something from Londonderry. So can we just have that in the record that, based on getting that information from Londonderry?
And basically, it says that they have no concern over the piece of property, so.
Okay, thank you.
And it's in their documents, and it'll be in our
Yeah,
documents
it's just, it
also.
was on hold, so I just wanted it in the record in the minutes. Thank you.
all right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to read the finding of facts. Move to find the proposed plan does not alter the existing conditions which would affect access to the lots, ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood remains unchanged as a result of the 3-lot subdivision plan.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Nelson. Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Fishman,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice.
Yes.
Mr. Malaby.
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
The chair votes yes.
Mr. Chair?
So-
Do we or do we not have waivers requested? The form says no, but I heard somebody say, yes, it's on,
I didn't see it in the minutes.
and you mentioned you wanted a waiver.
We had a note on the plan regarding the requesting a waiver for overhead utilities, and I guess it is an oversight. We had not submitted a formal written letter for that. George just informed me of that. It was
Oh,
our
yeah.
intention to request a waiver for to not have to put underground utilities on these houses on account of everyone else on the street having overhead utilities.
It's note 13 on the plan.
I just found, yeah, thanks, Mark, I just found it. So,
So let's, we have to make the motion, so let me get the book. We need to get that section of the.
well, it's right,
utilities.
it's right here in the plan.
Okay. If you want to read that, Dave.
Oh,
and then-
13, I'll read the motion, but what we're gonna need is, you're gonna need that in writing from you requesting that. If you give that to Mrs. Cioris, so I can
Absolutely.
find the record. All right, so I move to approve a waiver requested by the applicant from section 17066C of the Town of Derry Land Development Control Regulations to permit overhead utilities where otherwise in-ground utilities would be required.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Ganese, a second by Mr. Nelson. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Ganese?
Yes.
Mr. Malavey?
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson? The chair
Yes.
votes yes. So that's been approved. Just
make
reference as number 13 on the notes.
Yeah, just make sure when you write that, it's exactly what I made the motion on, because on the note.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, to continue on?
Anybody have any questions? All right, so I move to approve pursuant to RSA 676, colon 4, Romunical number 3. We already did that.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Expedited review with the following conditions. Subject to the owner's signature, subject to the on-site inspection by town engineer. Establish escrow for the settings of the bounds and certify the bounds have been set. Establish appropriate escrow as required to complete the project. Obtain written approval from the planning director designee that the GIS disk is received and operable and complies with LDCR section 17024, 14C. Conditions precedent shall be met within 6 months. Submission of the appropriate recording fees payable to the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds. This includes a $25 L-chip fee, recording fees for the Mylar, and notice of decision. Subject to Public Works, Mark LaRue, email dated February 9th, 2024, that a copy of the turnaround easement for the last lot be submitted to DPW for review.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Ganese, we have a second by Mr. Nelson. Just to check with Mr. LaRue, is there anything else that popped up? Everything's still okay?
That's good.
Okay, with Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Fishman.
Does the waiver need to be included in here as a
The
condition?
waiver's separate.
So we normally have a condition that the waiver that is approved is on the plan, but it's actually already on the plan.
Okay. So the written request does not need to be part of the condition?
When you get a copy of the plan down there, you go to number 13, you'll actually see it on
Yes,
the
sir.
plan. Got that.
Okay, then yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Ganese.
Yes.
Mr. Malavey,
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So you're finally good.
Thank you.
Good luck with you. Anybody that's aggrieved by this decision has 30 days to come back and.
Yeah, can you actually get a piece of paper and write the waiver request in longhand and give it to George before you leave the room?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Copy that number 7 on there. Okay, going on to the next public hearing, 256 Investment Associates, LLC, PID 31043, 56 Crystal Avenue, site plan review, Common Man Roadside. So with that, we're gonna, before we introduce you, we're gonna have George give us an overview.
Okay, thanks again, Mr. Chairman. Real quick, the one minor thing, and we would have to take a vote.
Just gonna do that.
Yeah, just for the record, Nicole Duquette's the engineer, and she spoke with Mark and I. The plans that you have are the plans that were submitted to us. They would like to make a revised or a revision to that plan of adding, correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, 250 feet?
It's approximately 200.
Okay, approximately. And I'll let Nicole explain it. There's a bump out on the sidewalk, they would like to extend the footprint a little bit. It doesn't impact the site in any way. Mark and I spoke, we have no objection. So the first thing you have to do is make a motion to accept the revised plans, and you'll see them up on the screen. So that would be the first thing to do, and then I can do my staff report.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to accept the revised plans as presented.
Second, but
We have a you've got it on a slide of what you wanted to make and change? George thought you had it.
I do.
I
I just
guess
gotta
my
get used
question-
to doing this.
have we actually received physical plans?
Yes, yeah.
These are the ones that
No,
had to
these are, the
change?
ones you have tonight are the ones that were submitted. So we have the electronic copy, and then if you want, we can get you a printout of the paper ones too.
So the planning department has an electronic copy
Yes.
of the revised submission. The
Yes,
board doesn't
yeah.
have it in front of it tonight.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
and this just happened a few days ago with that, so, all right, given that, let me know, well, you guys got to vote to accept the revised plans first, and then I can do my staff report.
Okay, I see that. All right, great.
Thank you.
Now we just have to vote on it.
Do we have a motion yet?
Yeah, I made a motion.
I
Dave
second. We
seconded it.
discussed, we just need to vote.
So we're going to be voting on the extension of the shop convenience store where the red lines are depicted on this revised print. Starting with Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Fishman,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Ganese,
Yes.
Mr. Malaby,
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer,
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that big piece of the jurisdiction got accepted.
Okay, great, thank you. Now I'll do my staff report, then I can turn it back to Nicole. So just for the record again, the applicant is 256 Investments Associates LLC. The project name is Common Man Roadside. The address is 56 Crystal Ave. The purpose of the site plan is to raise the existing quick service restaurant, which is Wendy's, and redevelop the site for a proposed retail motor fuel outlet, and we'll add that number of 240 to that 4970, the original amount. So for a sandwich shop, convenience store, and fueling area with a 6 fuel dispenser islands, the property is located in the general commercial district. All town departments have reviewed and signed the plan. There is a waiver request in a letter dated February 13 from Greenman Peterson, Inc. There are 5 of them, and that would be for the reduction of the front parking setback, reduction of the internal landscaping from 5 to 3.7%, reduction in the number of street trees, reduction of the trees within the landscape islands, and the last one to allow the dumpster within the front setback. There are no state permits required. Staff would recommend approval of both the waiver request and the site plan application. I just want to compliment the engineers. This is a well-done plan, very thorough, and I'll turn it over to Nicole Duquette. You can summarize and then talk about the waivers.
Sure, thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Duquette from Greenman Peterson, or GPI. Just looking at the existing property, you probably are all very aware of this piece of property. It's the former Wendy's property at the corner of Crystal Ave and Manchester Ave, right across from Haas Dental. It's been vacant for a little, well, unused for a little while. So it's a 1.1 acre lot within the general commercial district. And what we're proposing is a common man roadside retail motor outlet. Getting used to where my slides are. It's a 5,225 square foot building, common man roadside market and deli on the northern corner of the site, and a 6-island fueling dispenser area with a canopy overhead. The site does have 22 parking spaces, or we've proposed 22 parking spaces. And I thank you for allowing us to increase the building size. If you drive in the Epsom area, if you've driven in the Epsom area recently, they just opened up one on the Epsom Circle. And we used the same prototype building type, and they found that it would be a little bit more efficient if we just had 4 or 5 more feet within the building in width and depth to allow for a little bit more efficiency behind the counter. So that will, just bumping those walls out slightly will allow for that a little bit more efficient store. As far as the constraints of the site, well, one, it's a triangular property on on 2 road frontages, so we have more road frontage than we have any other side lot line. The other thing is we have a drainage easement that runs through the site. It runs along Crystal Ave and then down towards the point. So there's a 20-foot easement that runs along Crystal Ave and then down through the property. So we have that easement as well as a sewer easement that runs on the other side of the fueling canopy. We have a sewer easement, 20-foot sewer easement that runs down that side of the property too. So this site was really complicated as far as utilities and frontage goes. For so moving on to drainage, we are proposing at Mr. LaRue's request to replace the existing 54-inch CMP pipe, the drainage main that goes through this site. It is a very large pipe. It is on the older side, so it probably needs replacing at this point. So it's a good time to do it before we do full construction on this site. So we are replacing that with the 54-inch RCP pipe to hopefully last a little longer than the CMP pipe would have. We are also filling in that big depression that's in the front of the existing Wendy's restaurant along Crystal Ave, so that has multiple culverts coming in from the wetland across the street, from the drainage lines within Crystal Ave, both directions. So we needed to not just do a manhole, we needed to do a significant size drainage vault. So we have a significant size drainage vault to allow connection of those pipes, the existing inverts in, from off-site, and then to allow for the 54-inch outlet going, combined outlet going out. We are also replacing the existing drainage vault that's along Manchester Ave that is showing signs of wear, and the concrete's crumbling a little bit, so now's the time to do that. So we are replacing that as well. As far as on-site drainage, we are proposing, the current site it has catch basins, that's about it. So it's catch basins directly into the existing drainage main that goes through the site. What we're proposing on the new site is to recharge the roof runoff from the building into an infiltration basin. It is an above-ground infiltration basin that's towards the side of the property, the northern side of the property, or northwestern side. So that will handle the roof runoff. Then for the parking areas, we are proposing new deep sump catch basins with oil water separator hoods. And those will flow into an oil water separator tank. And the flow also goes through First Defense hydrodynamic separators. So we are trying to treat this water a lot more than what's existing today. So we are connecting our outflows will go to the existing drainage system, the existing drainage main that goes through our site as it did before. And we are looking at a very slight decrease in flow rate with these improvements. For the utilities, we are proposing a new water service to Manchester Ave. That you can see on that north, right in back of the infiltration basin. There's a new water service going down towards Manchester Ave. And then we are proposing new sewer services to the new, that's another thing we're doing on this project. We're replacing the existing sewer main that goes through that site with a new sewer main. So we're connecting our new service to that new main the new main that we're replacing. And so the new sewer will have a grease trap for our kitchen waste, and then we'll have a domestic line going out to that too. As far as utilities, other utilities, electric and communications will go to the pole and along Crystal Ave underground to that pole. And then gas will go out to the line that's behind the sidewalk in Crystal Ave. So we'll have a new connection to there as well. Erosion control is the typical silt fence around the property, construction entrance, stabilized construction entrance, and catch basin inlet control. It is a rather small site, so silt fence is going to be the big thing on this site to make sure that sedimentation does not leave the site. Signage on the site, we've made sure that the signage that we're proposing does comply with the zoning ordinance. The freestanding sign will be at the corner, the point of the site where the intersection of Crystal Ave and Manchester Ave. There's a little landscaped island. That's where the freestanding sign is. And then we're proposing one canopy sign on the canopy frontage on Crystal Ave, and then one building sign on the Market and Deli. And those are shown on our sign and graphic plan as far as the locations go too. So and these are images of the different signs as well. The freestanding sign is that middle image on the top. That just gives you an idea of what the sign looks like in the day and at night. So it will be the stone background, and only those images will be lit up on the sign. So those are the only sign portions of the monument sign. Landscaping we've tried to make sure that it's native, drought resistant, and trees are diverse, so that, we've been getting a lot of invasive bugs, beetles, and just that type of thing. We've found that doing diverse species on a property really works better than just doing all of one tree and all of one shrub. So we've tried to be diverse with what we've proposed on the site. So we're proposing red maple, honey locust, and hawthorn trees around the property. As far as shrubs go, we have a mixture of hummingbird, summersweet, dogwood, inkberry, winterberry, spirea, and then, of course, the arborvitaes around the dumpsters that we're kind of used to seeing. And then we do have some perennial plantings, such as daylilies, black-eyed Susans, and little blue stem. Mr. Suarez mentioned that we are asking for, I think, 5 waivers, and it does sound like a lot. However, due to the site constraints, we're really limited on what we can plant on this site. The area along Crystal Ave is within a drainage easement. That's where our 54-inch culvert is. So we're limited to what we can do in there. And then as far as the area along Manchester Ave, you can see there's a little bit of a gap along Manchester Ave. That's where the drainage comes in, and there's the vault structure is there as well. So because of the utilities coming in and out of the site, and the mains, not the utility services, but the existing mains or proposed mains come in, we haven't been able to plant those areas along the frontage and a little bit on Manchester Ave. Same thing with the internal landscaping. We really don't have any internal we have some internal landscaping along the 3 parking spaces, but we've tried to be really efficient on this piece of property. So even our dumpster, we have employee parking signs on that dumpster so that our employees are parking in front of that dumpster instead of taking up valuable space for patrons. And then the front parking setback, the existing Wendy's site parking, pavement edge is at the same. So we're not increasing further. We're keeping that existing pavement line along Crystal Ave to the property line. So that 7.5 feet is existing today. And then the last one is for the dumpster within the front setback, because we are mostly front setback with this property. It limits where we can put the dumpster legally. So just having it in the location that we show it makes sense for both. That is kind of our back of property on this site. And we tried to make sure it wasn't visible from Crystal Ave and from that intersection, because that's your main view of the property. So that being said, I'm here to answer any questions. We also have Brad Pernaugh from Common Man Roadside and Alex Bayless from the property owner here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, do we have to move into termination of regional impact?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept jurisdiction. I move to accept jurisdiction of the site plan before the board for 256 Investment Associates LLC, Common Man Roadside, PAD 31043, 65 Crystal Ave. Crystal Ave.
And that's accepting with the revised piece in there.
Yeah, we already did that.
Yeah, okay. So saying that, we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Nelson. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. So we've accepted jurisdiction.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, termination of regional impact pursuant to RSA 36:56. The board finds the proposal as presented at this time meets the definition of a development of regional impact.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Nelson. Mr. Chase?
No. This is a small local project and does not meet the definition of a regional impact.
Mr. Fishman?
No for the same reasons.
Mr. Healy?
No, for the same reasons.
Mr. Grenice?
No, for the same reasons.
Mr. Malaby?
No, for the same reasons.
Mr. Feinhauer?
No for the same reasons.
Mr. Myers?
No, same reasons.
Mr. Nelson?
No, I agree with Mr. Chase.
And the chair will go along with, make it unanimous. So with that, that got accepted. And moving on,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
we have a motion by Mr. Grenice and a second by Mr. Nelson to open the public hearing. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The public hearing is now open. So anybody in the audience wishing to speak or online, if Mr. Provencher, if you see anybody, please come forward, state your name, and hang on a second. So if you would step aside, ma'am?
Yep.
And then afterwards, whatever questions you have, that you'll come back up and respond to that. So please come in, state your name and address.
How are you? I'm Justin Tumanowski, 11 Manchester Ave. I'm one of the abutters, and this is one of my properties. We only got the notification, so I'm just looking at this for the first time. Super curious on just the impact of pertaining to our property. So 11 Manchester Ave, so we would be I guess the left-hand side corner where the dumpster is, and that's our property. Visual aesthetics, landscaping, any setback issues, just, we're here for the first time, seeing this for the first time, so looking for any insight on what our impact will be. Aesthetically, lighting, 24/7, along those nature, right? Anything that anyone would want to be concerned about.
So currently, all the cars that are there now, are they part of a different customer base, or, I mean, that whole area by where the dumpster is
We're the property next door. So we're concerned with just, what is the aesthetics? What is the visual impact? Are we getting lighting cast on the house? Are we gonna have, is there fencing? So if I can see a visual, or if we can have a copy of the plan as an abutter?
Okay, if you're completed, and when she comes back up, she'll be able to respond.
Sure thing.
to
Yeah, if we can just get what's our impact? That's really just the general.
Why don't you hang on one second, just in case somebody else wants to come up?
We can share together?
Well, usually we don't do that.
Okay.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Okay, hang on there, Nicole.
Huh?
please, over?
Hi,
State your name
my
and
name is
address.
Kathleen Sullivan. I live at 5 Concord Ave, which is on the other side of the Haas Dental Office. I'm concerned about lighting. Is this a 24-hour facility, or does it close at some point? Also very concerned about noise. A lot of gas stations now have music playing outside. Is this going to be part of the plan? Like the gentleman just said, we just found out about this within the past week. So this is the first time I'm hearing the plans myself. So there's a little bit of concern about, like he said, aesthetics, lighting, and the noise concerns.
Were you living there when Wendy's was there? Because
Yes.
it'd be the same format.
Well, we heard a lot of noise from Wendy's.
wait a minute.
Both the traffic noise as well as, we could hear everybody's ordering. If you drove through the drive-through and ordered a Baconator, we knew what you were getting. It was very noisy.
I don't believe they have,
There's the truck turn plan.
okay.
Okay?
Canopy
Thank you.
elevations.
I'm sorry.
You're right, they skipped that.
What was your address again?
5 Concord?
Thank you.
Too late.
Seeing none, rise online, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
All right, no one else wants to come up and speak? All right, Mr. Chairman, making a motion, if no one wants to come up and speak anymore, to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Nelson. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
So,
Mr. Grenice?
Oops, no, I have a comment on that. So with public hearing, I like, for when the public comes up, they have their questions, and then the follow-up, I would like to keep public hearing open until they get the follow-up in case they have some back and forth. I've seen that at other meetings. So if their questions aren't fully answered, we've closed the public hearing, and then they're asking questions now from the audience. So if, I'm going to vote no, and hopefully the presenter can answer these questions, and if they have follow-up, they have a chance to come back up.
Well, coming to the close of the year and everything else, we can also change the policy and procedures. So that would take place in March or the first meeting in April, so we can make a recommendation on that for the future. So I think I did call Mr. Healy. You said no?
I'm saying no to close the public hearing.
Okay, Mr. Grenice?
That's it.
I'm going to say yes for this reason, because it's in our policies and procedures. And in the past, when Mr. Nelson, myself, when I was a chairman, you and other chairmans, we've always allowed the public to come up and ask other questions if their question wasn't answered by the developer. So that's why I'm voting yes. We're very transparent.
Okay, Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, before we actually move on, I see on my screen the lighting plan, which is on the table of contents for this plan set, but is actually not in the plan set.
I know, I was looking for that.
So, is this another thing where we have to vote to accept additional information?
Go ahead, do you want to answer that?
Sure, I do apologize. I realized right before I came tonight that the copies that were sent here did not include the lighting plan. However, the lighting plan was included in the TRC package and in VHB's review as well.
Okay.
So I apologize for that.
Seen one, I just didn't see it.
So the planning department has received
we
the
do,
lighting
yep.
plan. Great.
Okay. That was my follow-up question to Mr. Nelson.
Before we move on, Mr. LaRue, do you have anything you want to bring up first while she's still?
No, as far as the lighting plan, I recalled seeing it, and I was, I was going through the plan 3 times, and I realized it wasn't in there, but it was in our packet for the submission. And I'll let the Ms. Duquette speak to it, but we just got to be able to see it a little bit more in detail, making sure that we're not casting. Usually the downlights are very good about not casting light and have been very efficient in other sites. So it's the standard practice in all lighting plans at this point.
Since we have the lighting plan up already, and before I ask you to respond to the abutters' comments, on the lighting plan, would you explain the red line that goes around that building and explain what the lighting plan is so they would know?
Sure. So the red line is the property line. So that's our boundary, basically. And then you'll see the light, the blue is just the photometrics for the canopy, which is typically a little brighter than the rest of the lot. And then the green numbers there are the foot candles. So what this plan shows is that we've reduced the light coming off of the property. Light fixtures are dark sky approved, full cutoff fixtures as required by every ordinance now. And then they are directed into the site and not away from the site. This doesn't, what photometric plans don't take into account is any streetlights that are within Manchester Ave or Crystal Ave. That's never provided on the photometric plan. So there may be some merged lighting that's not reflected in those foot candles, but this is from the proposed lighting on the site.
Okay. So with that, let's continue on with some of the questions that they
Sure.
asked.
So there was a question, 11 Manchester Ave, I'm not quite sure which property that is, but I think it's the parking lot that's right next door. So in relation to that property, that is where the dumpster is. However, the dumpster is the setback requirement that we're asking for a waiver from is not from that property line. It's from the Manchester Ave property line.
Go to the site, I need to interrupt, could you go to the site plan then again, the
Oh,
basic one?
absolutely.
That might help the abutters.
Yes.
To see what that was, the colored one. Thank you.
So just, okay, just so you know that I believe, Mr. Sioris, that it's provided online as well, right? There's a link to the site, the plans
Yes.
as well? So that's provided under the agendas in the Derry website as well, under planning board.
I think so.
I think Mr. Sioris was getting copies as well. Owen, is there any way we can zoom this? Maybe that will be a little. Maybe that's a little better. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good, thank you. So this makes it a little easier to see. Thank you. So, so the lighting, as I said, the lighting is directed on site, not away from site. We've managed to avoid light trespass off the property lines as required by the ordinance. Setbacks, we're meeting the side setback to that parking lot line. So that's being met. However, it's the front setback from Manchester Ave that we're requesting a waiver from. We've also made sure that we put plantings around that dumpster so that, and that's where we have our arborvitaes, to block the view of the dumpster for our abutter on that side. There's also, that's the area that we have the most green space is against our abutters. So all of that green area will be seeded. As far as fencing goes, we did not include fencing on this. Typically, we do that to protect residential neighbors. We don't have any residential neighbors on this. However, if it's the purview of the board, I'm sure Common Man Roadside would be okay with putting up a fence if it's required.
Well, typically, you would put up the vinyl slots in between the chain link?
Say that.
You would put up for the dumpster area, the chain link fence that would go around there as a barrier. You would have the green plastic slots that go through there, or brown, whatever your color coordination is.
Yes. Yeah, so whenever we do chain link fence, they always have to have the vinyl slats that go through, as well as the plantings around it.
Can I, quick question?
Sure.
About the you're talking about the dumpsters, right? Mm-hmm. You're not putting a fence around them? Because on the plan, it shows proposed fence, trash enclosure.
It also says it in the VHB report, too.
So, I apologize. I thought the neighbor was talking about a fence on the property line, not a fence around the dumpster. We are providing a fence around the dumpster.
These are my papers.
Okay.
Um,
I know
the-
you, I'm sorry, your butters brought up the dumpster too, right, with the fence?
Yeah, it was, I think it was two
I was gonna
different
say, yeah,
comments,
because it
though.
says right on the plan.
What are you looking
proposed
for?
Yes,
fence.
we
Okay.
do have a dumpster enclosure. It's a concrete pad with a fenced-in dumpster enclosure that does have the slats or the fabric going through the chain link fence. And then we have the plantings around it. We don't propose a fence along the property line, just for clarification. As far as hours go,
That's not what you're looking for?
the gas, the fueling portion of it is open 24 hours, but the market and deli is only open from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. And I do want to note that this does not have a drive-through, so you're not dealing with the order post noise on this one. There is music played at the canopy, but that can be controlled. The volume can be controlled at that, and they can turn that down. I think I got all the comments.
Oh, Mr. Nelson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions. One is, do you have a designated snow storage area?
So snow storage is shown.
It's right by the gas tanks.
So we do have a note. Okay.
Okay, it's down in that corner, on the
Okay.
triangle.
So we have snow storage along Crystal Ave in that landscape area. We do have snow storage at the corner and snow storage along Manchester Ave. However, we do realize that those are limited areas, and we do have a note on the plan saying that if there's excess snow, that it has to be trucked off-site.
Okay, my other question is regard to the architectural elevation rendering. Since the plan has been revised, since it was submitted, bumping the front wall of the store outward, will there still be fenestration on, as it shows on the plan, on the right-hand side of the building?
So there is an overhang still. If you look at the plan, I think that's what you're asking about.
No, I'm asking, fenestration is a fancy architectural word for windows.
Oh, thank you. I'm an engineer, I'm not an architect. So the front facade will look very similar. It's just those sides, and there will be a tiny indent near the doors for that leg that we did bump out. The windows will all stay the same, in the same location. They'll just be different, they'll just be pushed out a little bit. And then we still do have the overhang, so we're still keeping those architectural elements. We're just changing the depth of the jogs in the building. And then we are still keeping the overhang the exact same location. So the overhang is going to be shorter than it was proposed, but we still do have that visual, change in facade.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Myers?
Just a quick question. I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be a big improvement for that lot, so I only have one little teeny tiny little concern having said that, and I share the abutter's question about the noise. When I go to pump gas, I don't want to hear noise. I'm a newsie. I already know the news. I don't need to hear them tell me yesterday's news. Why does there need to be music or anything? Just why does there need to be that? And can you assure the abutter that if the owners insist on useless music, that it be kept really at a low level?
So what you guys don't understand is that.
Mr. Chair, we will need proximity to the microphone.
Yeah.
For any comment there.
And you're going to have to state your name and address, please, for the record.
You want me to say it, or?
Yeah.
So I'm Jeff Renner, and I live at 5 Concord Ave. We hear everything. The sound just travels.
Like, and that's just the way it is. We don't need to have something like that disturbing us. So we don't want any music, we don't want any ads playing when people get gas, no news, nothing like that. We couldn't do anything about Wendy's when we moved in, but we would like to express our opinions about this now. Especially, maybe there's a cutoff where you only play the music like from 9 to 5 or something. That's one thing, but in the evenings, no, please.
Okay,
That's all.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, I haven't been to an Irving that has music that's turned down low.
I
They
go to
bring
the
up a good
Irving on
point.
Bypass 28 all the time, and they have just basically that little sound box coming out. I don't know if they're controlling it during the daytime, but we can make a condition later on if you wish, on, like the gentleman had indicated, for a specific point in time, you can have a decibel set not to exceed X. But we don't have a noise ordinance, come to think of it.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's good.
moving on.
So I just want to just bring up just an aerial of this, just to see where we are in relation. I'm not quite sure if the gas station across the street, if they have any noise at the pumps. They're a relatively older gas station, so they probably don't. But we are in a commercial area. There is Haas Dental, which has a big property right next door, before we even get to any residential properties. So this is a commercial, it is within the general commercial district. It is a commercial area along a busy road. So you are gonna have noise at all times of the day. So I do wanna point that out.
Looking at that southerly exposure right there, by any chance, do you have any agreement with any of the offices or dental or businesses nearby where you allow them to park all their vehicles during the daytime?
No, there is no agreement on that property.
Okay, so
Today.
right now they're just using that particular area.
Yeah, I mean, there's a verbal okay to use it as long as the site's not in use before this development happens.
Would that continue once the common man is completed?
No. Actually, I was just there the last week for a dentist appointment, and I was talking to the dentist there about it. They're fully aware, all the staff is fully aware that this is going on, and they do realize that they're gonna have to find someplace else to park. They do park in that overflow parking lot
Up there too, yeah.
just to the north of our property. And they do own the building across, the small building across the street that they use for office administration as well.
Okay, is there anything else that you've covered everything that the abutters? And then we're back to the board. Anybody else have any further questions?
I don't have a question, just more of a statement. I agree with what Mr. Myers had asked. I don't think we've fully addressed the abutters' concerns regarding that. But I don't think it's really within the purview of the planning board on the volume of what's coming out of what's going in a commercial space. So I think it might be something maybe for the town council to look at a noise ordinance or something along that line. Not specifically for this, but for the community as a whole, maybe a noise ordinance. Because I don't think, I'm hearing what they're saying, but I don't think it's within the purview of the planning board to get into the sound coming from the property.
Especially since we don't have a standard.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Nelson?
Well,
I have questions.
we actually have done so in the past. I think with one of the outdoor wedding venues that had a pavilion.
Oh, yeah.
We did actually put limitations, not necessarily on decibel levels, but on the hours of operation of their sound system. Measuring the sound levels would probably be difficult, but we did in the past impose a curfew on the use of sound systems when people were likely to be sleeping. So I think that much is probably established is in our purview.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Grenice.
I agree with Mr. Nelson. I believe that we did that, I think it was like 11 o'clock or something.
For the,
So my question is, you said the store closes at 11 PM
Correct.
every day. What time they open?
5 a.m.
And the pumps are open 24/7.
Correct.
Typically, at your other locations, is the music playing 24 hours a day?
If the pumps are open, yeah, the video is not shut off.
What is the purpose of the music? I'm only asking because I've been to some gas stations where it's playing and it's annoying. Some gas stations have a button on the pump that can turn off the music. Some of the Irving, some of them don't. So is it something that you guys get money for, or I'm just being curious? Why?
I don't know. I could ask Irving that, but if that's their business plan.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the plan, and it looks like 11, I think, is that little house that's on the south side of the new jeweler building, I believe.
Okay.
And then that little parking lot, that belongs to Haas.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other abutter, is it Claremont?
No, it's the wrong side.
Concord?
Concord? Is that the street that bends up?
'Cause that should be Manchester Street you're crossing over.
Yeah, Manchester's down there, I'm just curious. Yeah, I understand what you're saying about it's a commercial space and everything, but because it's all open, especially this time of year, there's nothing on the trees, and, you know, we're trying to be business friendly, but we also have to think of our residents too. So, and I know, like Mr. Nelson said, that we have put time limitations on wedding venues and stuff like that. It's been like 11 o'clock. So I'm just maybe asking, maybe, you know, when it gets later in the evening, you know, maybe like turn it off or turn it down low. I know other people have gone, you know, sometimes you hear cars going to gas stations and they crank their volume and their radio, and late night, you know, we can't do anything about that, but maybe just as a suggestion. Appreciate it.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
So,
Mr. Officer.
I'd like to follow up on Mr. Grenice's suggestion. I think the engineer said something like, well, that's part of Irving's business plan. And so my question is, are they represented here, and do the folks who are represented as applicants have the authority to bind their operations, or is that something separate?
So Irving would be a tenant on this property. They would be a tenant of Common Man Roadsides.
So if the planning board did decide to say there was a, you know, shut off the sound at 11 PM when the store closes, is that going to work?
Hi, I'm Brad Pernod with the Common Man Roadside. I just want to clarify, Irving would not be a tenant. They're a supplier of ours. And so we have full control over this site and music levels and any other thing. We have yet to have an issue with music volumes at our other places where, if you've been to our establishments, they're pretty low-key. We're not playing offensive music, loud music. It's just something we feel complements our experience both inside the store and outside. And we've never had an issue before, and I can't foresee one here either.
But the one in Manchester on Goss Falls Road, that's right next to a residential abutter, correct?
More commercial.
But in the back, isn't that?
It could be, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think that's
I think
residential.
looking at this and our other places and where the abutters are, we're not going to have issues with light or music, and we're good neighbors everywhere we go. So if there's an issue, they can come see us and we'll rectify it.
Okay.
Okay, any further? You, just 1 minute. Do you like to say another question? You, come up here.
You gotta come to the mic, though.
Because you're on TV, so you gotta show your good side.
I'm actually kind of shy.
She's saying you don't have a good side.
Oh, so what is the procedure if, I'm Jeff, I live at 5 Concord Ave. What's the procedure if we are disturbed by this business in the future and all that? Because right now, we're doing a hearing and you're making decisions about them moving forward and how things are going to look. And this is my first experience with anything like this.
In this town,
And I
we
just
also
prefer
have,
not to you know, not to have to worry about it.
We have what's called code enforcement.
Okay?
So, and they abide by all the state regulations, along with all of the zoning and the land use regulations here. So if there was an issue, then you would call and file a complaint with them, and then they would deal it with at their level.
And I'm open to accepting a
Oh,
business card.
there's one more,
from-
that if you're not satisfied with that, you could show up, what's the first and third Tuesday at the town council, and they have a public forum that you could go out there and speak to the councilors and say, here, I have an issue here, it's not getting addressed. But typically, 99% of the times that things get addressed with the code enforcement if there's an issue.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I
It's
could,
just-
just for the record, because we're all together, so if you call Bob Mackey's the code enforcement director on the second floor with planning, so, and Mark LaRue also is, so if you ever heard, and this is not singing them out, but anything on the site, we get it all from trash being blown around and noise and lighting, and, no, it varies, so you call code enforcement, Bob Mackey, he's gonna have a copy of that approved site plan, and then, like John said, they go out and do enforcement if we have to, and we would contact the developer in this case, or the owner. So there's mechanisms there that if something was going really crazy, you know, we have enforcement, legal action that the town can take.
This is something that we don't, you know, I'm not gonna speak for my wife, but
Yep.
I don't feel like I have much control over what happens with businesses like this coming in and unnecessary music and
Yeah.
ads when I'm getting gas. I don't have to get gas there, so I'm not gonna hear it. I might get a sandwich, but that's probably another thing. I'm just, I don't
No, it's a good question. I
it's
think it's the
strange.
hardest thing, and staff can speak to this. It's the biggest challenge for us, both at staff level and the board. You try to be respectful and fair to both sides, and when you have that commercial abutting residential neighborhood, that's the biggest thing we get all the time. And when we have houses in residential neighborhoods behind the commercial zones, so we try to be fair to the developer, but we also are sensitive to your issues. And you know, like I said, reach out to us. Bob Mackey's a great department. He would go out and talk to the developer if we need to take any action. I think they're going to be a good neighbor, just because I visited a couple of their other sites, and we have other issues with some fast food restaurants, and we have to do the same thing, and we try to take care of the problem, so.
If the
Okay.
noise does carry, we will be saying something.
Yep. Okay.
So that's my announcement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, given that, we're back to the board. Is there anything else that you wish to say?
And I could just also add that we are owners and operators, we're not developers and selling and leaving, like, this is our business model. Our business partner, Alex Ray, has been in the state for 50 years, I think he just celebrated the opening of his first restaurant, and this is our 4th or 5th store that we're gonna be developing. We have 6 and 7 in line, and this is what we do, and we're New Hampshire people, we're from here, and I'll be there, so come see me if there's a problem. But we have a good team, and they're very conscious of where we are and what we do. And we haven't had this issue before, and if it comes up, we would address it without a doubt. But we don't really foresee it being a problem at all.
Okay. Mr. Myers?
Okay, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great plan. It will remove an eyesore in that area, so I'm all in favor of it. However, where they are asking for 5 waivers, isn't it reasonable to suggest maybe one little condition, the condition being no music from 11 PM when they close until 5 AM? Isn't that reasonable?
Yeah, we can do that, I think. Yes, we have. We've done it before with the marriage ceremonies and so forth.
Right, I remember, I was here.
Mr. Chairman, I would support that as a condition that during the hours that the store is closed from 11 PM till 5,
Right.
AM, the next morning, that the music be cut off.
Okay, anybody else having anything?
For the record, procedurally, for Andy, that won't be a waiver. So when you make a motion to approve with our conditions,
That
as
would be
we
in the
outlined, you add that as a
That's
condition. Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah, no problem.
Because they're asking for 5
Right.
waivers, isn't it reasonable to also ask
I
for
hear
a
you.
condition?
You're an attorney. For the record, he's an attorney, that's why.
We're gonna do the
Well, no, you
waivers
asked.
individually.
Yeah.
We're not gonna lump the waivers
Right.
together. They'll be
Right.
done individually.
I understand that.
so we can hear Mr. Grenise's voice.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
I'm going to move to grant waiver number 1, which is in regards to section 170 -63A2 to allow a reduction of the front parking setback from 15 feet to 7.5 feet.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenese, a second by Mr. Nelson. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That's one down.
All right, so I move to grant waiver number 2, which is in regards to section 170-63A8 to allow a reduction in the internal landscaping from 5% to 3.7%.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Grenese, a second by Mr. Nelson, starting with Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. It's unanimous.
All
Okay,
right,
it's
so
down.
I'm making a motion to grant waiver number 3, which is in regards to section 170-64B1 to allow a reduction in the number of street trees from 14 required to 6 proposed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Grenese, a second by Mr. Nelson, starting with Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Moving on.
All right, I move to grant waiver number 4, which in regard to section 170-64B4 to allow a reduction of trees within the landscape islands from 3 required to 1 proposed.
Second.
Starting with Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
All right, the last
Last but not,
waiver, which is number 5. I move to grant number 5 in regards to section 170-63A2 to allow the dumpster within the front setback.
Second.
we have a motion by Mr. Grenese, second by Mr. Nelson. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenese?
Um,
Yep. Mr. Grenese,
Nope.
Mr. Malaby?
Nope, I haven't voted yet. I was going to make a comment. Normally, we don't allow this, but because of the way the site is, I'm voting yes because of restrictions on the site.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Let's say Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, going in the next section.
All right, so after review of the waiver request, the board finds strict, okay, we already did that.
Well, we should probably read that in.
Okay, after review of the waiver request, the board finds a strict conformity to the regulation would pose unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and the waiver would not be contrary in the spirit and the intent of the regulations.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Grenese, second by Mr. Nelson. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Next.
All right, architectural design regulations, move to find pursuant to LDCR Section 170-85 that the application as presented demonstrates substantial compliance with the architectural design regulations. This property is located in the General Commercial District and meets a high level of compliance as outlined in Section 170-84.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Grenese, second by Mr. Nelson, going with Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair will vote yes, and completes that particular section, and nicely done on the architectural work.
Yes. Kudos for a very nice looking building.
Looks
Going
like a lot
into
of granite
findings
there.
of fact.
I'm hopefully there's granite on there too, by
It
the
really
way.
looks like a lot of granite
Gotta
on
be
the
a lot
front.
of granite.
Yeah.
If we're doing everything granite.
All right, so I'm going to keep on going. Finding of facts. I move to find the proposed plan does not alter the existing conditions which would affect access to the lots, ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood remains unchanged as a result of the site plan. The proposed development would allow for the ongoing redevelopment of the general commercial district parcels along Crystal Ave and help expand the town's tax base. The redevelopment project would provide replacing existing vacant building with a new business venture located in Derry and providing employment opportunities.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Grenese, second by Mr. Nelson, starting with Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice,
Yes.
and Mr. Melby,
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes also. So it's unanimous. Now we go into, after you finish writing that.
Oh, there's no questions for Mark LaRue, right?
Oh, Mark was still all set?
All set.
Okay. Nobody online with their hands raised or anything?
One moment, checking, Mr. Chair. Seeing none rise online.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Venese?
No other comments from the board?
Nope.
All right, I'm going to keep on going.
That's, you're on the
All
roll.
right. I move to approve pursuant to RSA 674, colon 4,
676:4.
oh, 676:4, sorry. Numerical I, complete application with the following conditions. Subject to the owner's signature, subject to an on-site inspection by the town engineer, establish appropriate escrows required to complete the project, subject to VHB engineering report, subject to Mark LaRue's Public Works email dated February 9th, 2024 regarding sewer and drainage easement. Obtain written approval from the planning director designee that the GIS disk is received and is operable and complies with the LDC Section 1724 14C. Conditions precedent shall be met within 6 months. Any music that is playing at the pumps will only be on during business hours of the store.
Should we,
Is that how you want to word it?
well, should we include public address system? Because a lot of gas stations, and I do go to the Irving gas stations, have this public address system that has news and commercials and more, it's more than just music. It's like a little public
Right.
address. It's like
So-
an old-fashioned radio station.
All right, so strike that, and we're going to add that any public address type system will only be in operation at the pumps during the hours of the store,
The business hours.
the business hours of the store.
Do we want to put the specific hours, which they had told us were going to be
5 a.m. to
5
11
a.m. to 11?
p.m.
Yeah. Do we want to put that in?
I don't know, that's up to the board.
I would move that we put that in.
Sure.
Okay, so that's in. And
That's it?
I'm thinking, no, that's it, unless someone wants to add anything.
So we had a motion, and do we have a
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Nelson. And before I pull the ball, the board, excuse me, question, the VHB engineering report, everything that's in that report, you don't have an issue with that?
No, we don't.
Okay. With that, Mr. Chase.
Discussion?
Whoops.
We have a discussion?
Okay, go ahead.
So I just want to put on the record, before we move forward to approve all this, this plan tonight, is that the owner, you're the owner, right?
One of them, yes.
One of the owners has stated during this public hearing that he will be on site, and that if any of the abutters have any issues, that they could come directly to him and those issues would be addressed.
We would
I
take
believe
into
that's what you
account
said.
any consideration. I
Right,
mean,
consideration,
reasonable
but-
consideration.
Right,
yes.
okay, I just want to make sure that that's in the record.
And just to clarify, I'm not on site every single day.
No, I understand that, yeah, but I just want to make sure that someone will be accessible if there's any abutter issues, that they can go to there before they come to the town. Just want to make sure everybody's happy.
Okay, seeing nobody else, Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Fishman,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice.
Yes.
Mr. Melody,
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Myers,
I think it's a great plan, yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so it's unanimously approved. Anybody feeling at fault with this here, have 30 days to respond back to us for a rehearing. So with that, huh?
The planning board doesn't have the rehearing process. It would go straight to Superior Court
Straight
within
to
30
Superior
days. And, yeah.
Or the other one,
Yeah,
that
it's
home-
the zoning board has the appeal process, not Derry
Right.
Planning.
And
that we
thank
get
you
the
very
appeal
much. I think it's a wonderful project.
looking great. Very
Thank you.
good.
Thank you for working with the abutters too, I appreciate that.
Okay, going on to the next item, which is board member comments. Any board members Oops, yes, we
I don't know if this is a comment or a question. We have referenced this evening the VHB report. I don't think it's in our package.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we're just, we have it in our file. I have it right here, actually. So if staff can just bear with us a little bit more, we're working through the staff and getting you the stuff for the board.
And so the question was this just a change in procedure or, because I remember we used to get the Keach Nordstrom reports back when it was Keach Nordstrom.
Yeah, no, it's not a change of procedure. I have the physical hard copy. It was sent electronically, so our error and our end is to get
okay,
it in the
cool.
packet. So I have it here in the file.
Well,
We
that's
just got to
great.
get
Thank
it to
you.
you in your packets in the future, that's all. So it's on our end.
Yeah, because they switch with different companies as far as the purview. So anybody else wishing to say anything? If not, do I not
Make
hear?
a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Board's adjourned.